The Single Mom Success Podcast, episode 24. Heather Wells and the Single Mom blog present Single Mom Success, the place for single moms to find support, inspiration, and the path to their own success. Hey everybody, and welcome to today's Single Mom Success Podcast. I hope you're having a fantastic Monday, or whatever day you happen to be listening to this podcast. It's Monday while I'm currently recording this. My children just got back to school after being on fall break for a week. I'm fast forwarding. I wish it was spring. I'm not really happy with the fact that it's going to be cold. I live in Colorado, and right now I guess I shouldn't complain too terribly much because we've had actually really beautiful weather. It's been gorgeous. Though it does make me worried for the kind of winter we're going to have. Sometimes I feel like the better or the warmer our fall is, the worse our winter is going to be. So, and supposedly with El Nino coming or whatever's going on, we're supposed to have a pretty nasty winter this year. That's what they're predicting. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not looking forward to it. So I think that's why I had that little Freudian slip of saying spring break instead of fall break, because I really want it to be spring again. I think if I could just have, Thanksgiving and then Christmas really quick, and it could snow on Christmas, I'm good with that. And then New Year's, and then right into spring, like immediately after those, boom, boom, boom. I think I'd be really happy. I love living in Colorado. It's a beautiful state. I love being here. It's my home. But I think that if I had my choice, I would love to live somewhere tropical, where I could live off the beach and be by the ocean, and just that would be where I would like to stay, and just stay moderately warm throughout the whole year. I think I'd be happy with that. So that's, at some point, I think that will be my goal. Maybe when my kids are old enough and they've moved out or gone to college or started their lives or whatever, that will be my goal, is to say, okay, I love Colorado and I'll come back and be here certain times of the year, but once it starts getting cold, I am going to move somewhere or go be somewhere tropical because I don't like being cold, and I live in Colorado. So that's where we're at right now. We're getting ready to get into the winter weather, the winter season, and my kids coming back to school after being on break is good. They spent a week basically getting on each other's nerves the entire week and being very nasty to each other. And I'm not quite sure what's going on. Maybe it's the change of seasons, but they are being very, very moody as of late. I do know that part of it is, I have twin boys who are 15, so a lot of it's hormones and puberty and all of that raging in stereo in my house. And the other is that I have a very intelligent 8-year-old daughter who, she's just too smart for her own good, and so she kind of gets in her brother's faces. So I've got like this nice little perfect storm of attitude going on in my house right now. But so yeah, that was, our last week was pretty memorable for those few days. So I hope that your previous week was a lot less chaotic than mine. I wanted to start today's podcast off today's podcast is actually going over something that I've seen pretty prevalently in my social media feed. And I know I get so many of my podcast ideas from social media, and I think that it's simply because that's where a lot of our information comes from anymore. If you stop and think about it, it's almost kind of scary. I actually had somebody from the newspaper, the local newspaper here, asked me if I wanted a membership, and I thought to myself, I'm like, no, I really don't, because I never read the newspaper, and it was really just a waste for me to have it. I would just throw it away, and it was wasteful. And I'd much rather, save a tree or part of a tree by not having a member or a subscription to a newspaper that I'm just going to throw away or burn in the fireplace or anything like that. So I said no, but then I thought about it. I'm like, gosh, does anybody even really get the newspaper anymore? It seems like it's sort of a dying form of media, because we get so much of our information and so much of our news from online sources, the computer, social media, and it's kind of scary because a lot of times there's stuff that's out there on social media that's absolutely categorically not true. And So it is scary to think that there's, in my, I have family members who, God love them. They are wonderful people, but they are not the most, shall I say, internet savvy. They take what they see on Facebook as gospel and they post it and spread it without actually looking and doing any research on it. They think, oh my gosh, like look at what this thing happened in politics, and oh my god, I can't believe President Obama did this. And I have to kind of call them out on it every so often and say, that's actually not true. That the website that link is from is actually a satirical website. It's made up. It's not a real news story. And but it's amazing how much crap just gets circulated around the web based off social media. And it brings up my point of today's podcast, because I recently saw in one of the groups I'm in, or may have been a couple, it's kind of made the rounds. I've actually seen it show up a couple of times, not just in groups, but like I've had, people that I know post it, or people that I know comment on the video. And it's of this woman who was just shaming her child, and just like this video of her just talking smack about her daughter, and it was a video of her, she was saying things like, those are her nasty pants that she wears and doesn't clean, and they smell, and she wears these underwear and she's peed in them, and blah blah blah, and she doesn't care. And and then she showed her daughter, and honestly, I looked at this child and I thought, she strikes me almost as a special needs child. And I don't know the family and I don't know the daughter, but the way she was kind of carrying herself and behaving, she seemed like almost that she kind of had something kind of going on with her. Or maybe she was just mortified that her mother was doing this. But it was, I sat there and watched it, and I think back to a lot of the videos and things that I've seen just in the past few years, where this has become the norm. Like, parents just do this to their kids. They decide that they're going to catch, for whatever reason, their child did something, and they've decided that they are going to publicly humiliate them over social media channels. And it's astonishing to me, because I, as angry as I've been at my children for things that they've done, and every child is going to do stupid things. Every child is going to go through a phase where, I still have to remind my teenage boys, did you put deodorant on today? Because it doesn't smell like you put deodorant on today. There are days when I've forgotten to put deodorant on because I'm in such a hurry, or I'm just, but it's like, you're wearing the same pants that you've worn for the past 3 days. You need to go change your pants, type of thing. And I think it's just a matter of, those are the things that need to happen, for them to learn. And they learn as they get older, and they realize, if I wear the same pants a couple of days in a row, people are going to know that I haven't changed my pants, and I don't, I should change my pants, or whatever the case may be. But, and it all sort of started, I don't know if this is exactly where it started, but, a ways back, there was a guy who, his daughter decided to get snotty with him on social media, or post something about, she was just really disrespectful and not appreciative of what they've given her and the things that they've done for her. And he shot her laptop that he had bought her. Like, he shot it with his gun. And, I'll be the first to admit, I watched it and I was like, that's pretty stinking funny. Like, oh my, but the thing is he, in that video, while it was, him making a very valid point, as far as I'm concerned, where, if your parents are providing all of these things for you, being disrespectful is a surefire way to get them taken from you. Because you don't have to have a laptop. You don't have to have internet access to be a child. You don't have to, have a car. You don't have to have fancy clothes. Your parents, as parents, are required to give you a roof, meal, food in your stomach, an education, and, warmth, light, things like that. Everything else is above and beyond. Video games, computers, internet, social media accounts, like phones, all of that. You don't have to have those things. And I think somewhere in society, children have decided that that is the way it works. Like, those are things that are just, they're given right as children to have. But that's not the case, right? You don't have to have those things. None of those things are promised to you or guaranteed to you in this life just because you're a child. So, for me, that, that father, he had a very valid point. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as shooting something, especially something that I paid for. Like, that wouldn't be where I would go. I would definitely have taken it from her. But that ended up kind of sparking a big debate on, whether or not you should do things like that online. But it's gotten, and as far as I'm concerned, in all honesty, like, I don't feel that was hugely terrible. That was him showing his reaction and how he felt about what she said, but not in a way where it was degrading to her or insulting to her. It was just, if that's how you feel, let me respond by saying this. Like, this is my reaction to it. It wasn't put out there as a way to shame or embarrass her. I don't feel. I think that was not necessarily his point that he was trying to make. But since then, it seems that it has become a huge epidemic, and it's just astonishing to me how many parents have decided that they're just going to go out there and publicly humiliate their child in a fashion and in a media construct that will never go away. The fact that they go on social media and put these videos out there, put pictures out there, things of that nature, and they will never, ever be gone. Once, I mean, seriously, like, and you hear it all the time, but I think that maybe there's people who truly don't believe it. Once you put something out there into the internet, it is there forever. It can never be completely removed. Because once you put it out there, it's been shared, it's been copied, it's been pasted, it's been downloaded, it's been retweeted, it's been, copied and pasted, it's been screen grabbed. There's no way for you to ever know that you fully got that back. It's just not going to happen. I mean, they even made a movie about it, for God's sakes, the sex tape movie or whatever, right? And, it's great. Like, there's no secrets on the internet. There aren't. And so when you post things like that out there, not only are you humiliating your child, but you are doing it in a way that you will never be able to get back. They will never be able to get away from that. And in this day and age, when there is so much bullying going on and children who are given this just open platform to be anonymously horrible to other people, I don't know why you would want to invite more of that for your child. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you shouldn't discipline your child. I'm not saying, that anyone's right or wrong necessarily. It's such a hard, slippery platform. But, I honestly, truly know that there is no way that I would ever want to humiliate my child like that in a public, open to the entire world to see platform. The entire world. It's not like I just trotted my kid out in front of our family and said, this is what my son did, and I want the entire family to know that my son stole from a store or did this thing, and, now everybody in our family is going to keep you in check, right? Like, that's not what this is. This is you taking your child and giving the entire world access to further humiliate your child, to further bully or mistreat your child, the person that you gave birth to. And I just can't understand why, as a parent, you would want to do that. I mean, you would protect them from somebody else doing that to them, wouldn't you? If your daughter came home and said, "Mom, so and so took a picture of me in the dressing room and it's embarrassing," and they put it out on the internet, like, you would be, I mean, I would imagine as a parent, you would be absolutely enraged if somebody violated your child like that. Yet there are people who are willingly and voluntarily doing it to their children. And I understand that maybe they feel like maybe that's the only thing that will get through to their child. And I think that speaks to another layer of the problem with social media. It's really horrifying where, like I said, I mean, people, they get the ability now to be anonymously nasty to people, and there's no repercussions, there's no backlash. They can just sit there and spew venom at people all day long, and there's no consequence for it, and they don't get to see how it affects or hurts that person. And I think that's given way to a lot of people who, I don't know why you would do it. I don't know why people, the trolls that are out there, I don't understand why. I mean, maybe they're just miserable, unhappy people, and it makes them feel better that they know that they've probably made somebody else cry. I guess it's just any typical bully. I guess I never understood why bullies bully. I don't understand why it makes you feel good to make another person feel miserable. And maybe that's the type of parent these people are, that's how they've been. Or maybe they are looking for that extra, 5 minutes of fame that they get by embarrassing their child and humiliating their child. I mean, now don't get me wrong. I mean, I've posted things like videos of my kids doing silly things, and yes, I'm sure it's probably embarrassing to them, but it's nothing that is humiliating, and I would never post anything with this specific intent of as a way to get back at them or teach them a lesson, because I don't think that's the lesson I want them to learn. I don't want my children growing up thinking that if I don't like something that somebody's doing, or if I'm not getting along with someone, or if somebody does something wrong, the best way to handle it is to videotape them and embarrass them and degrade them and humiliate them. I don't think that's the way I want my children raised. I don't want my kids to be the ones like that you see the videos that you see on social media anymore, where someone's getting beat up or abused in some fashion, or bullied or made fun of, and they're the kids just sitting there videotaping it. They're not actually doing anything to help. They're just watching and waiting to get that little bit of something good so they can post it on YouTube or Facebook and get more likes and get a video that goes viral. Like, that's the goal. Not to help the human being that's in the video. Like, they're not there to help the person. They're just sitting there watching as someone gets humiliated or violated, and they're okay with that. And it really kind of breaks my heart. It really does, to see how low of a standard, like morally, we have allowed our children to sink. That there are children out there who, that's all they care about, is getting that little 5 minutes of fame, that video that goes viral of something horrible happening to another human being, instead of putting down their frickin' phone and stepping in and saying, hey, leave this kid alone, right? There was this one kid, and he ended up being, he became, it went viral. And the reason it went viral, like, there were people videotaping this one kid beating up a blind kid. A blind kid. And the kid who became famous from it is the one who actually stepped in and, like, knocked the other kid out. And again, it's not, the violence is not good, but he actually stepped up and protected this kid who was blind. But there was a group of kids just standing there with their phones out, watching a blind kid get beat up. Like, what kind of world is that? What kind of people are we raising? And I'm sitting here thinking that to myself, but then I watch as parents go online and post videos of them humiliating their own children. Their own children. The people that they're supposed to protect. They are online degrading them. And that's basically what they're doing. And I understand that maybe the parents are just fed up. And I understand that there are the ones where the moms find out that their daughters are online claiming to be 19, 20-year-olds. You know, I get why they would be really upset. I mean, if my daughter was going online at 12 years old and saying she was 18 and 19 and trying to pick up guys who were, you know, and older, and these older guys were talking to her, I would be absolutely enraged. I would be furious with my daughter. But humiliating her online would, in my opinion, not be the best way to handle the situation, because first of all, one, she's going to absolutely resent me for it. And, you know, I understand that there's going to be times as a parent that our children will resent us and be very angry with us, but I do not want her having a reminder of what happened out there for the entire world to see. That will never go away for her mistake. And we've all made mistakes. Though, you know, I have no intention of allowing my daughter to have a social media account at 12 years old. Both my boys are 15, and they do not have social media accounts. They are not allowed to log into Facebook. They don't have Twitter. They don't have Tumblr. They don't have Snapchat. They don't have anything. My 15-year-old, he just got a phone finally this year, was allowed to have a phone. So, you know, I've really, you know, kind of knuckled down on the social media, and I did a blog post about it on the Single Mom blog, where you can kind of go see the post about why I don't let my children on social media, because it's just something that they don't need. They don't need it, and I honestly, at their age, think that it's more detrimental than it is helpful. I don't think that it's something that they need to go online and be potentially subjected to anyone from around the world being a total ass to them or making them feel bad about themselves. I don't feel they need to base their worth or self-worth on how many friends or followers or likes they have online. And, you know, quite honestly, there's a lot of content out there in the world that I just don't think they need access to, because it does more harm than good. And I know that my daughter's dad tells me all the time that I am overprotective, that I'm an overprotective parent. And to be honest, you know what? I think in this day and age, I think you really need to be. I think that you really need to be in order to, you know, just make sure that hopefully your children become good, solid, well-rounded people. And in order to do that, you know, you need to know what's going on in their lives. And unfortunately, I think through a lot of social media channels, children are given sort of a wider range of access to all kinds of, you know, there's all kinds of great things out there, don't get me wrong, but they also are given access to a lot of horrible things that without social media, they wouldn't have access to. But, you know, back to my point of, you know, going online and using this platform to embarrass or humiliate your children. While I understand, like I said, the woman who was absolutely horrified that she found her daughter had been talking to, older men and things like that. And she was just as pissed off at the men. But the problem is, they didn't know. This girl had been going online presenting herself as a 19-year-old, and therefore they were talking to her as though she were a 19-year-old. So while I understand she did it in a way to make those people understand, hey, this is my child and she's not 19, she's 13. The easier, better way, I would have just deleted her social media account and taken away any access to electronics that she had, computer, phone. The only way she would be able to get on the internet is if she needed to do homework, and she would be monitored the entire time. There's all sorts of programs that you can get that limit or eliminate a child's ability to log on to certain sites, or only gives them access to specific sites. I know that businesses use it so that their employees aren't surfing the internet during work hours. I had an employer who the only time the internet was open to outside platforms such as Facebook, back then it was MySpace, Facebook, MySpace, and all those things, was from 12 to 1 during the lunch hour. That was the only time you could access it. So there are programs and there are ways that you can lock down the access that children have to social media platforms. And, I think one of the other side effects that a lot of times people don't think about is when they do this in this fashion, it violates a certain amount of trust that your child will have with you. And while I understand that maybe they have violated your trust, they're children. They are children, and they are growing up, and they are learning, and they are testing those boundaries just like we did. We tested our boundaries. We did things we weren't supposed to. We snuck out. We did things, we hung out with friends we weren't supposed to. We went places we weren't supposed to go. We lied to our parents. There were always times where we pushed those boundaries. But the difference is when I got in trouble for doing those things, I was only in trouble with my parents, with my father and my immediate family, who knew about it because they had to know I was grounded in order to keep me in check, right? But the entire world wasn't notified about it. There wasn't a video that went out to everybody to watch about how I lied or how I cheated or how I did this or how I did that. And in all honesty, I think that if my father would have done that to me, I would have absolutely felt violated. I would have felt so humiliated that, yes, I got in trouble. Yes, I did something I shouldn't have done. And yes, even though I didn't like it, I do understand why I got punished. I did something wrong. I got in trouble. It sucked. I hated it. I was pissed. But I understood that I did something wrong. But to have my parent go out and publicly humiliate me, I think the only lesson that I would have taken from that was I would honestly have been like, wow, my dad's a bastard. That's absolutely, that's an absolute violation of my trust. Just because I got in trouble and did something that I shouldn't have done, not only am I in trouble, but now I'm absolutely humiliated. Everywhere I go, people are going to know. If you have a social media account, you're going to know that I did something wrong. These kids get picked out. They see them. People on the street be like, hey, you were on my Facebook feed. I saw you. You're the kid that did this or that. I can't imagine having that stigma just hang over me at all. It would be horrible. And I would never trust my father again. I would never trust my father. It would be a violation, an absolute violation. And there's no way I would want to ever make my children feel that way. So I'm not entirely certain when it became the thing to do, to take a video of your child and try and it amazes me because I feel like there's a lot of backlash that's going to come from this that the parents maybe don't think about. One is the fact that your children will feel very violated and very likely lose respect for you. I mean, in all honesty, I would lose total respect for my dad if he had done something like that. But on top of that, especially teenagers, if anything, it would make me absolutely more defiant. I wouldn't learn a lesson from that. Not the lesson that you would want to teach. I really wouldn't. I don't know. I would love to see, maybe some of these parents do follow-up videos or follow-up interviews and say, okay, hey, since you publicly humiliated your child, has their behavior improved? Has your relationship with your child gotten better? Have you, has anything, like, have they never done anything wrong since then out of fear of you publishing things online about them? Or has your relationship gotten worse because they feel like you absolutely violated their trust and humiliated them in the worst possible way? I would really be curious to know if anybody, had something like this work for them. So if you're listening to this podcast or you're reading this blog, and you're a parent who's actually done this, where you've actually used a video to publicly shame your child and put it out there for the entire world to see, please comment. I would love to know. Did it work? Did it help? Or did it make things worse? Or did things stay the same? I'm sure you probably got a lot of backlash. And it's funny because I see a lot of comments too. I see the comments of people saying, yeah, that's right. You should have done that. That'll teach them to blah, blah, blah. And then I see the other people, who sort of think like me and go, why would you do something like this to your child? Like, why would you do this? And I stop and I think that's what I'm going to end this podcast with is, for any parent who's out there listening thinking that maybe publicly shaming your child is the way to get them to behave, I would stop and ask this question of yourself. If anybody else thought about or did what you are thinking about doing to your child, if they videotaped your child and humiliated your child, if it was another student that went to their school who posted online about something about your child and used it to make fun of them or ridicule them or humiliate them, would you be okay with that? And is it only okay because you're their parent? Is that what makes it okay? Or is that what makes it worse? That because you're their parent, you should be protecting your child from that type of online ridicule. I'm not saying don't be mad because they did something wrong. I'm not saying don't punish them. I'm not saying that, every child is an angel and just because they make mistakes they shouldn't be punished. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying you can punish your child without allowing and inviting the rest of the world in on the punishment. That's like you taking your child out, putting them in a stockade, whipping their butt with a switch, and then allowing anybody who walked by the option of spanking your kid too. Your kid's in trouble, they're down, you kick them when they're down by, posting a video, and then you invite the rest of the world to continue to kick them while they're down. And I just don't see that as an effective form of parenting personally, and it would never be something that would ever cross my mind to do to my child. I can't imagine it, and especially knowing that no matter what happens, it will always be out there and it will follow them forever potentially. They could go to college and a couple years into college, it gets posted online by somebody who doesn't like them, and there they are being humiliated by their own parent, and the whole world and the whole campus gets to see, and now they have to deal with that ridicule all over again. And I just think that maybe these parents aren't thinking this through on how it could really affect their children. I think that they're upset, I think they're mad, I think they're frustrated, and I understand that as a parent. But I think they're making a poor decision when it comes to the way that they are going about punishing their child. Or, I don't know. I don't know how they really think that this is going to affect some kind of change. At least not a good, positive change. And it really disturbs me, and it breaks my heart every single time for those children. I understand that they've done something wrong. I understand that they're not angels. I understand. I really do. But every time I see those videos, my heart breaks for that poor child, because I understand that not only I am one in a billion people who can see what's happening to that poor kid. And it's heartbreaking. I can't imagine it. So, like I said, if you are a parent who has ever used video to publicly shame or ridicule your child, I honestly would like to hear from you. I would like to know if you actually got any kind of positive result from it. Did your child miraculously reform? Did they start behaving better? Or was there a lot of backlash? Are you still happy that you did what you did, or do you regret it now? I would really like to hear from you. And as well as anybody else, if you've ever thought about it, or for those who are like me and absolutely would never do something like that, please. I love to hear from the listeners and all of the readers. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes or any other platform, I highly would really love if you would go over to thesinglemomblog.com and leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. So I hope that you enjoyed this week's podcast. I know it wasn't necessarily inspirational or uplifting, but it was definitely a topic that it's really kind of been gnawing at me, because I keep seeing it over and over and over on my social media feeds, and it's really becoming disturbing, the fact that it's becoming such a trend in the last few years. It used to be just here and there, and now I think I see one or two every single week. And it's sad and it's scary to me that these poor children are, in essence, being bullied and humiliated by their own parents, and they're opening the door. They're opening the door for other people to humiliate and bully their children. Something that on a normal day they would never condone, and they would be down at the school in a heartbeat if somebody was doing that to their kid. And here it is, their own parents doing it to them. And I just don't see it, like I said, as an effective form of punishment. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please, like I said, go over to the blog, thesinglemomblog.com. Leave comments. Please subscribe to our weekly emails. We love helping out all of the single moms out there, and hope to hear from you. Take care and have a great week. You've been listening to the Single Mom Podcast, the place to go for support, encouragement, and maybe a few laughs along the way. Please also make sure you head on over to the Single Mom blog for more great stuff for single moms. We have resources, free things to print out, great articles. Can't wait to see you there. Be sure to leave feedback and comments, because we love hearing from other single moms. And if you like this podcast, please be sure to subscribe.